Right. Today we have to start the environmental chemistry part. Um, Before that, there is a small part. You already familiar with that. I mean, chemical products related to plant sources, right? Just read it. It's enough, right? No any complicated things. Just read that, and you already know a fractional distillation, steam distillation, that kind of things. Ne? You already have an idea, ne? You know what is called fractional distillation? Fractional distillation. Fractional distillation means there are three type of distillation methods, right? First one, simple distillation, right? In simple distillation, it was in O levels, right? In simple distillation, example, you can think about the salt water, right? What you do, you just heat it, and in laboratory we use limit condenser, right? I mean, whatever, we just take the vapor and then get it, right? And we learn about fractional distillation in Raoult's law, right? Raoult's law. This is simple distillation. We use simple distillation when there's only one volatile component present in the sample or the solution, right? When there's only one volatile component, right? Why one volatile component? If there are two or three, I mean more than one, we can't do simple distillation, right? When there's only one volatile component present, we just heat it and take the vapor and then condense it and get the liquid. That's what we do. And when there's two or more, we have to use fractional distillation, right? What we do, we just heat the sample and then we separate the different compounds based on their boiling points, right? There's a thing called fractional distillation column, right? That's what we use for the that's what you use to separate crude oil, right? Crude oil, you know what is crude oil, right? Right. So in crude oil there are several type of hydrocarbons, right? LP gas, petrol, diesel, kerosene, and jet fuel, tar, botulinum, there are 10 compounds, right? What we do, this fractional column contain different temperatures in different levels, right? Based on the boiling point of the hydrocarbon, it will, I mean, the gases just go away as gases, you will collect the gases. Then other hydrocarbons collect as liquids based on the boiling point. The gas that has low boiling point collect in the top of the chamber. The gases that has high boiling point collect in lower levels. Understood? Fractional distillation, right? You learn it. The theory based on that, and whole slow part, right? I mean, that equilibrium. Then then there's a thing called biodiesel. Um, you should know a little bit about biodiesel because biodiesel is a new trend actually, right? Simply, biodiesel means we produce biodiesel using animal, plant based oils, right? Animal and plant based oils, right? You can use whatever the oil to make biodiesel, right? It's called biodiesel because it's similar to diesel and it's made by animals and plants, right? So why it's important? It's a renewable one. It's a renewable energy or renewable fuel. Why? It regenerates, right? If you take something from the plants, it's not over, right? It's continuously generating, right? Nowadays, people use ethanol also as a fuel. Have you heard about it? We can use ethanol as a replacement for gasoline. Gasoline means petrol, right? We can't exactly replace it, right? I mean, don't put alcohol into the vehicle, right? Then the sir said we can put, we can replace petrol using ethanol. But I mean, there are some changes in the engine, right? I mean, there are some vehicles that can run using ethanol. Ethanol also under that category because you can generate it, right? But you can't generate gasoline, like petrol. You can't generate it, right? There's a limited amount, right? You use that. There are some vehicles, and in some countries they mix ethanol and gasoline, right? They mixing, right? They mix into some ratios and then use it. Again, that's not also good because it's not 100%, right? At least 10, 20, 30% will save, ne? That's also good. So now, I mean, there are some trends like that. Okay, so biodiesel is important. So basically, that's what happened, right? We use plant-based oils to convert into diesel, right? Basically, biodiesel means this kind of molecule. Okay, I'll write the reaction, right? So, fats. Fat means what? What is the basic oil of the basic formula of the fat? Fats or fatty acids, right? Lipids, right? So, it's like CH2O C double bond O R CH2 O C double bond O R. Then it will react with sodium alcohol and sodium hydroxide. Then it's form biodiesel R C double bond O CH3 plus do you remember this one? Glycerol that produce when you make soap byproduct, right? Glycerol, and that's the biodiesel, right? Basically bigger ester, right? Bigger ester molecule, right? That's what you use as biodiesel, not a normal hydrocarbon. No? So anyhow, it's a kind of a bigger one, that hydrocarbon chain. Okay. So there's a part, just read that. Then let's move to the chemistry of air pollution caused by industrial emissions, right? First one, acid rains, right? You heard about acid rains, ne? You heard about acid rains. බයෝඩීසල් පාර්ට් එක පොඩ්ඩක් කියව ගන්න ලොකු දෙයක් නෑ නිකම්ම complicated දේවල් නෑ මේකේ. නිකන් ස්ටඩි කරන්න තේරෙනවා. Just remember the equation. So what kind of thing called acid rain? The rain become acidic, right? So how about the normal rain? How about the normal rain? Is it acidic or neutral or basic? What is the condition? First of all, we should know the condition of the normal water, normal rain. What is the condition of normal rain? Acidic or neutral? So what are the gases in atmosphere? N2, O2, then CO2, right? We talk about those things, right? These are the main gases that we talk about, right? There are some gases higher than carbon dioxide, but this is what we talk about always. Right? So what happens when these gases dissolve in water? What happens when nitrogen dissolve in water? It's nitrogen. When oxygen dissolve in water, just oxygen, nothing happened, right? What happens when carbon dioxide dissolve in water? Something wrong in my mind. Acidic. What it form? When carbon dioxide dissolve? It's become soda. When carbon dioxide dissolve in water, it's become soda, right? Then rain becomes soda water, right? Right? We don't have that much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but anyhow, so it's from carbonic acid, right? Carbonic acid, right? So due to that, rainwater is slightly acidic. Slightly means it's around 6, right? Not exactly 7. It's not neutral. Not exact 7. It's little bit bent to acidic side. 6, 5.7, right? That's the limit, I guess. There's a limit. What was that limit? For 5.6, right? 5.6. So that's the limit, right? So the minimum acidity, right? Higher than that, 5.6 pH, 5.6. That's the maximum value achieved when carbon dioxide dissolve in rain, right? pH become 5.6. Actually, in our areas, most of the time, one of our professors said, I don't know, I don't measure the pH of normal rain, but he said almost all the urban areas, the pH of the rainwater is less than 5.6. Little bit, at least it's, the best, when they check the rain around Singharaja, which is almost 7. He said, I don't know. He said, which is close to 7, right? When they measure the pH in Singharaja area, right? Which is close to 7, right? Higher than 6, okay? In urban areas, actually, most of the time, it's at least a little bit less than 5.6, right? Not that much acidic, but slightly acidic, okay? This is not that much acidic. So acidity. So this is the minimum level, right? Minimum acidity, that's the limit, right? So if the acidity higher than that, we call it acid rain, right? We don't get acid rains in Sri Lanka. According to my memory, right? I didn't remember something like that. Anyhow, so that's the limit. So in normal rain, only carbon dioxide is the culprit for make rainwater acidic. Only carbon dioxide. Right. Then, due to the pollution, what happened? Atmosphere contain not only carbon dioxide, but also it's contain noxes. We call something noxes. What is that? Noxus means nitrogen oxides, different type of nitrogen oxides, right? Basically nitrogen and oxygen, I mean, it's those two elements mix in different ratios, right? Whatever, I mean, when only those two present, we call noxus, right? NOx, noxus. And oxides of sulfur, basically sulfur dioxide, right? Most commonly sulfur dioxide. And H2S, that's also H2S. Clear? Right. So in normal rainwater, I mean, in natural environment, naturally, carbon dioxide goes to acidify the rainwater. But there is another thing. During thundering, another thing again happened. During thundering, what happened? You know, nitrogen. Nitrogen is very stable molecule. Nitrogen is very stable molecule. But what happened during thundering, lightning? When lightning occurs, it's produces huge amount of heat in the sky, right? Then what happened? That heat trigger the nitrogen bond and it's react with oxygen, right? It's react with oxygen. It's react with oxygen. It's react with oxygen and it's produce nitrogen. I mean, nitrogen oxides, right? When that NO react with again oxygen, it's become NO2, right? So this is what happened. I mean, this is natural, right? This is the only way that happened naturally to acidify rain, except carbon dioxide, right? Noxus can be formed during thundering, otherwise only carbon dioxide goes to acidification, right? This is happened. Clear? Right. But due to that, rain doesn't become that much acidic. Clear? This is a natural process, right? I mean, if there's a continuous thundering, right, 24/7, then it may produce tons of nitrogen dioxide and then it goes to acidify the rain, but it's not happened that much. It's a natural thing, right? So then the next one, what? Human activities. It should be natural in human activities, right? Then I mean, other animals don't do anything, right? අලි කොටිය විල්ල මොකක්වත් කරන්නේ නැහැ අපි කරොත් පිසක්, right? Environment pollution, there are two ways, right? Natural ways and human activities. We call another term called anthropogenic. Have you heard about it? Anthropogenic activities or something. Have you heard about it? Yeah. Sometimes I forget that, right? So that's what we call anthropogenic activities, right? Caused by human, right? Complicated words, right? Anthropogenic, human activities. So here it's about, I mean, in this lesson, I mean, this environmental part, the first part, we talk about air pollution, right? First part, we talk about air pollution, then water pollution likewise, okay? So, how do we pollute air? I mean, not air basically, I mean, what are the things that we do to make acid rain? So we should release some gases that become acid when it's dissolved in water, right? That should happen, right? We should release some gases those are acidic, right? We should release some gases, those are acidic, then we get rain mode, acid rain, right? acidified rain. නිකම් බබල් කරනවා වගේ තමයි ඉතින් උඩට යවනවා, right? So these are the main gases, right? Noxes and sulfur, right? Sulfur oxides and noxes, those are the main gases that we release and which goes to make acid rains, right? So what are the ways that release noxes and sulfur dioxide? Just guess what are the ways. Right? There are some natural ways also, right? There are few more natural ways, right, that release noxes into environment, right? During lightning it just produce and it just happen quickly, right? Here now I am talking about the things happen in the ground, normal environment, right? That thing happen in higher altitudes, right? Production of noxes due to lightning. I'm not talking about that kind of thing, right? So I'll explain the natural ways, right? There are a few natural ways that release sulfur dioxide and noxes, especially volcano eruption, right? Did you remember I said we collect sulfur from volcanoes, right? Then volcano contains sulfur, that means at that temperature that sulfur may burn, it can burn and then release sulfur dioxide. It's very toxic, sulfur dioxide, sulfur, hydrogen sulfide, that kind of gases erupt, that release during volcano eruptions, right? And then another thing, there are some microbes also that release nitrogen dioxide, noxious gases, right? There are some microbes. And so what else? Yeah, microbial activities, right? That kind of thing. Okay. Then what are the human activities that release this kind of acidic gases? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? What is the air pollution that links with what? Vehicles. What is that? What you call? Fossil fuel burning, right? Fossil fuel burning, right? Vehicles means fossil fuel burning, right? Then you may have a problem. Why did I say fossil fuel burning? Fossil fuel contain what? Mainly. What's contained in the fossil fuel mainly? Basically, hydrocarbons, hydrogen and carbon. Then how nitrogen and sulfur release? How nitrogen and sulfur release to the environment? There are some small sulfur, I don't say sulfur, right? Sulfur release especially when they burn coal. Coal contains sulfur. Normal fossil fuel that we use for vehicles, that doesn't contain sulfur, right? It may contain very small amount, right? It doesn't matter, right? Actually, it doesn't have sulfur, right? Sulfur contained especially in coal, right? Like coal power plant, right? So when they burn that much coal, it releases sulfur dioxide. Okay, sulfur dioxide release in that way especially. And this one, noxious release, right? When you burn hydrocarbons. How? Can you say how? Does nitrogen contain in hydrocarbon? Does nitrogen contain? Does nitrogen mixing? No, you haven't heard about it, right? No, that's true. Yeah, hydrocarbon doesn't contain anything. Hydrocarbon doesn't contain anything that anything related to nitrogen, right? Not nitrogen and not something related to nitrogen. So then, why do I say it goes to release noxes? the problem, that environment. Inside of the vehicle, you know, there is a piston, right? And there's a chamber, right? You may that there's a piston in its, right? Right, this is the piston, right? So just moving up and down, right? So we just put the fuel and then remove the exhaust gas, right? This is what happened inside of the vehicle. You may heard about it, chamber, right? We call combustion vehicle engines, right? We call it as combustion engines, right? There is a combustion inside of the chamber, right? There is a piston, and that piston move up and down due to the combustion of petrol or diesel, fuel combustion. So what happened here, when we supply, so we supply fuel and air into this engine chamber, right? Then during this process, this engine heat into higher temperature, right? There is a high temperature inside of this chamber, right? So what is the gas that we send to the chamber? We just send the normal atmosphere, normal atmospheric air, right? We send the normal atmospheric air. So what's contained in the normal atmospheric air? Mainly nitrogen and oxygen. Actually, oxygen contain only 21%. Other 78% is nitrogen. This environment is very hot and it's contain huge amount of energy. That energy and temperature, that condition, what happened? It's enough to trigger the nitrogen bond, and it's enough to initiate the reaction of nitrogen and oxygen, right? That condition initiate the reaction. Then what happened? When fossil fuel burning, when hydrocarbons burning, some amount of nitrogen also react with oxygen and release to environment. Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir, clear.
Right. That's what happened inside of the vehicles. Huh? Then you might think, I mean, when you saw something like that, vehicle combustion engines goes to release noxes or something. If you don't know that, how is that happen? You may get confused. I mean, because I mean, if you think, right, then you think how to find out. Then the only thing that you know, uh, hydrocarbon contain carbon and hydrogen, right? You don't think that, you don't, no one think about that environment and the gas that we send to the combustion chamber, right? We just said normal air, atmospheric air, right? So then this is what happened, right? This nitrogen dioxide, right? Nitrogen dioxide reacts with water and atmospheric oxygen, and it's become HNO3. This sulfur oxidizes into sulfur trioxide, and that sulfur trioxide dissolved in water. If they ask, you have write all those equations. Huh? 2SO4. Right. It's form sulfuric acid and HNO, which is strong gas. Right. So then, what are the effects? What are the effects of acid rain? Give me a second. No? I'll come. Think about the effects. Right. So, what happens when acid fall into the ground? Huh? Acid is falling, right? Acid falls into this infrastructure, plants, right, and the buildings, on animals. What happened? I mean, in Sri Lanka, we don't see something like that. I mean, that much powerful acid rain, right? But some places, some cities get that kind of acid rains. So what happened basically? It's like acid washing, right? Washed by acid, right? Um, First thing, it's directly effect on animals, right? Animals, especially aquatic animals. I mean, aquatic organisms, right? It's directly effect on aquatic organism because the pH of the pH of the water bodies, right? pH of the water bodies change due to that acid rain, right? And that those almost all the aquatic organisms are very sensitive for the pH value, right? pH of that water body, right? So when the acid falls into that water body, right, it will change the pH quickly, right? It just drop the pH, right? It make acidic quickly. Then it cause to kill lot of fishes and other aquatic organisms, right? It's a one thing, and it makes some, I mean, acid rains aren't new, right? Don't think the first we the only this, I mean, this disaster made by human, right? We don't make the first. We didn't make the first acid rain, huh? We didn't make first acid rain, right? This earth got, I mean, bigger acid rain, right? Huge acid rains, right? Especially I just remember now. I mean, දැන් මතක් වුණේ මේ the one remember when I explained that dinosaurs scene, right? The way they get extinct, right? So there was a meteorite, right? So that meteorite hit, and then there were several things happened, right? After that meteorite falls into the Earth's surface. One thing, that there's a huge impact. The quickest thing, there's a huge impact. I mean, it's like a blast, right? And then that blast goes to cover the Earth, right? And then that it's burned a lot of things, right? I mean, gases and everything, and Earth covered by that ashes, right? That ashes, and it sends some gases, right? Those gases contain carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide like gases, right? Due to that, it's make ash clouds, right? That ash clouds contain those gases also, right? Then what happened? Earth got a heavy acid rain, right? Earth got heavy acid rain at that time, right? Acid rain isn't only made by human. I mean, that thing, it can happen naturally, right? It's already happened in the, I mean, million years ago, right? We didn't make the first acid rain, right? කලිනුත් වෙලා තියෙනවා, right? එහෙම naturally වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? Especially due to volcanic eruptions, right? If there's a continuous volcanic eruption, right? That's obvious, right? It will happen. So then what happened to dinosaurs, right? Most of their skin get burned. The one who falls into that train, right? They just get killed, right? The skin damage, burns, right? Then that's what happened to animals, right? Skin burns, right? Maybe get killed, right? So another thing, plants. What happened to the plants? Plants, the leaves get damaged, right? Leaves become white color and something like that, right? It's directly effect on plants also. And there's another thing, right? Those things are obvious, right? I mean, when you think, you can think those things. And these are things that you don't think. When the water become acidic, right? After acid rain, the ground water bodies become acidic, right? Right. when pH of the water bodies get increased, there are some minerals that contain metal ions, right? There are some minerals that contain metal ions. That metal ions reach to water bodies, right? I mean, normal metal ions, it doesn't matter, but there are some heavy metals caused to reach the water bodies, right? So metals like, heavy metals like mercury, right? Something like that, cadmium, right? It just goes to water bodies. It will dissolve. What we do when something doesn't dissolve in water, we make it acidic. When salt doesn't dissolve in water, what we do? We put some acid. Barium sulfite doesn't dissolve in water, we put acid, then it's dissolved. Acid dissolved. That's what happened to the minerals, right? That minerals get dissolved. And another thing, things made by calcium carbonate, like some statues and some buildings, right? That's covered by, anything like, if something related to calcium carbonate, or it's made by calcium carbonate or painted by calcium carbonate, whatever, right? That will destroy, right? Taj Mahal, right? It's made by calcium carbonate, right? What happened? It get drained, right? It gets worn out. Just react with acid rain and then breaking, right? Right? Damage, right? Right. Those are the effects, right? Effects of acid rain, right? Another thing, vehicles. What happened to the vehicles when it's open to rain? Even people say don't. Some of them say don't put the vehicle under rain. I mean, and most of, I mean, there are some people I know, I mean, they just wash the vehicle after they went under rain. They just wash the vehicle. I don't do that. I do it. I never do it, but I mean, it's better to do even under normal water, right? Normal rain also a little bit acidic, right? It goes to corrosion. It increases the corrosion, right? It increases the rate of corrosion. I mean, then if something exposed to acid rain, what happens? It goes to corrosion, right? It corrode quickly, right? Rust. It rusted quickly, right? If something iron, definitely it's done, right? Those are very common things happen due to acid rains, right? So what are the precautions? What are the precautions to reduce acid rain? What are the precautions to reduce acid rain, right? First thing, reduce the fossil fuel burning, right? හැම මගුලට මේකනේ නේද? fossil fuel burning මොකක් කිව්වත් ඒක නැත්නම් ඔක්කොම හරි වගේ, right? So reduce the fossil fuel burning or something like that. Then using coal and diesel with low sulfur content, right? We can use coal and diesel that's sulfur content is lower, right? sulfur නම් කිව්ව coal වල sulfur තියෙන කියලා මොකක්ද? diesel වලත් තියෙනවා. මේ මට ඒක මතක නැහැ diesel වල තියනවලු. මේ මට මතක coal වල හොඳට තියෙනවා. හුඟක් coal වල. නැති coalුත් තියෙනවා. නැති කියන්නේ low amount, right? Coal that contains sulfur small amount, right? We have to use that kind of coal, right? And diesel with low amount of sulfur, right? Then we can treat the air, right? දැන් අපිට ඒ air එක treat කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ඔය වගේව තියෙනවා. In vehicles, have you heard about something called catalytic converter? ඔය සමහර vehicles වල නිකන් මේ තියෙනවා දැකලා තියෙනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක නිකන් මම පෙන්නන්නම් මේ නම හිච්ච හින්දා ඔය නිකන් අපිට දැනගන්න හොඳයි. vehicle එකේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ කෑල්ලක් දැකලා තියෙනවද යට? නිකන් ගෙඩිය වගේ. Have you seen something like that? This is what we call catalytic converter, right? Okay. This is what we call catalytic converter. It contains some very expensive metals, right? It contains some very expensive metals, right? So what's happened? It just complete the combustion. I mean, complete the combustion means, let's say it just remove the toxic gases, right? Polluted gases, right? Or sometimes it just reverse it, right? Right? It's act as a catalyst, right? To complete the reaction. Or complete වෙලා ලොකු අවුලක් නැහැනේ, right? සමහර ඒවා reverse කරනවා අන්න ඒ වගේ එකක් කරනවා catalytic converter එකකින්, right? So those are the basic things that we can do, right? So we can change our energy sources, right? So we can shift to clean energy. We call clean energy, or we can say renewable energy sources, like except combustion vehicles with combustion engines. We can get EVs, electric vehicles. Have electric vehicles ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? අන්න ඒ වගේ පුළුවන් electric vehicles, right? Then next one, which is called greenhouse, right? That's it, right? That's it. Acid rain is over. So the next thing happened due to air pollution. global warming, right? Yeah, you learn it from grade 6, 7, right? Global warming. What is global warming? What happened in global warming? Global warming means, as in the name, earth getting heated, ne? Right? මේ earth එක heat වෙනවා, warm. The basic thing happened here. Average temperature of the earth is increasing, right? Average temperature of the earth is increasing. That's what happened. So there are some reasons, there are some factors that affect on the global warming, right? The main factor that affect on global warming is greenhouse effect, right? Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect, right? Clear? Greenhouse effect. That's what happened. That's one effect, right? Greenhouse effect. So let's talk about greenhouse effect. You're already familiar with greenhouse effect. I mean, almost all the things happen nowadays due to global warming. Global warming is the root cause, right? That's the main thing, right? All other things are, I mean, something that, I mean, the result of that global warming, right? That's the root cause, right? So if we reduce that, if we stop global warming, almost all the natural disasters will stop, right? Almost, right? You know, things like the Ikra also happen due to global warming, right? Glaciers melting, right? I mean, there's no limit, right? Everything just like, everything is linked into global warming, right? So this is the one of the main factor effect on global warming. What is this greenhouse effect? What is this greenhouse effect? Let's talk about it. Here, think about the Earth's surface, right? This is Earth's surface, and we have our atmosphere. This is our atmosphere. This is surface, right? Then solar rays comes to the Earth, right? And then some amount is reflect back, right? Simple, right? How do we get heat? How do we get heat? We get heat from Earth. We get heat from Earth. We get heat from Earth. How do we get heat from Earth? Sorry, I mean, not Earth. We get heat from sun, right? We get heat from sun. How do we get heat from sun? Right? You know, I mean, are we touching the sun? No, we don't touch the sun, right? So the way we get heat as IR waves. We get heat as IR wave. I think you know what is called IR waves, right? Infrared, right? Infrared. So then the problem the problem here. Our sun, it doesn't release huge amount of infrared radiation. It doesn't release huge amount of infrared radiation. What it releases, its main emission is spread around UV range and visible light. It has other emissions, but it's mainly contain UV and light. Then how do we get heat? Other waves doesn't contain heat, right? The way we get heat, when the light rays, especially visible light, right? We mainly get visible, right? We don't even get UV also, because UV absorbed by UV cut by ozone layer, you know that. So we get the light rays, and when light rays falls into the earth, it absorbs some amount of energy from that light waves, reflect back another wave. Okay, what is that wave? You know, if you remember that electromagnetic spectrum, right? Visible range has higher energy than infrared. Visible light has higher energy than infrared waves. Therefore, Earth's surface absorbs some amount of energy from the visible light and reflect what kind of wave? It's reflect IR. It's reflect IR. Okay, it's reflect IR. Keep it in your mind. What happened there? That IR is reflect, right? That IR just go away from the Earth's surface, right? If it's happened like this, IR from it just go away. If it's happened like this, our Earth's temperature most probably less than 0 Celsius. If it's happened like this, our Earth's temperature goes less than 0, right? Right? Sorry, less than 0. How many, right? Anyhow, our Earth goes to ice age, right? If it's happened like that, so we aren't in ice age. So something changed now. Then something should change, right? These reflected rays, there are some gases. There are some gases in our atmosphere that send these IR rays, that reflected IR rays back to the earth, right? That reflect the IR rays back to the earth, right? Then it's happened, something like that, right? Clear? There are some gases that send that IR rays. Oh, you don't need that much, right? Don't say IR. I mean, anyhow, that light ray, let's say light rays, right? It's sent back to the earth. It doesn't just reflect, right? That reflected ray also sent back to the earth, right? What are those gases? First one, H2O. Second one, carbon monoxide. Then CH4. Then SO2, whatever, right? Many more. Mainly carbon dioxide, I mean water, carbon dioxide, that kind of gases, huh? N2, right? Sorry, not N2. Right, yeah. So do, right? Mainly these gases, right? Gases like oxygen, nitrogen can't do this thing, right? They can't do that, huh? That gases. Heteroatomic gases can do that, okay? Heteroatomic gases, right? So we call these gases as greenhouse gases. We call these gases as greenhouse gases, right? This is what happened during greenhouse effect. This is what we call greenhouse effect. Clear? So we can do this thing. We did this thing. You know, greenhouses. Have you heard about greenhouses? Right? We cover the area. I mean, we make a house that's covered by glasses. Right? Inside of the house, the temperature is high. It has high temperature. It's done by these glasses, right? These glasses let some, I mean, it lets visible rays to go through that, but it's reflect IR rays back to the greenhouse, right? You can see the same thing when you place your vehicle under the sunlight. What happened when you put the vehicle under the sunlight, right? In outside, in a bright day, you park the vehicle in outside, right? I mean, open parking. What happened? Can you go inside of the vehicle after 1 hour, half an hour later, right? It's become oven, right? Ne? Your car become oven. Same thing happened here, right? Same thing happened inside of the earth, right? Similar thing, right? Here, that thing done by gases. Here it's done by glass. Clear? Right? It's done by gas. That means it allows some gases to penetrate, but not for some gases, right? Right, okay. Anyway, this process is called greenhouse effect. Is it a bad process? Don't we need greenhouse effect? Huh? We need greenhouse effect for what? To maintain earth temperature and to keep it warm, right? Basically to keep it warm. Then what's the problem here? We learn it under global warming. It's a good process, right? Now you may think it's like a good process, right? Before that you may think it's a bad process, right? There's no something good and bad, right? So the problem here, so look at those gases, right? Something wrong with those gases now, right? Before 150 years ago, we didn't have that problem, global warming, right? 150, oh, I mean, especially before mechanical revolution, right? Mechanical revolution. So what's changed before mechanical revolution and after mechanical revolution? What's the change happened here, right? You know, water also a problem, right? Water vapor, right? Then we can't put water into the atmosphere, right? We have to remove water in the atmosphere. Then we can reduce the global warming. Can we do that? No. The water content in the atmosphere doesn't change, right? Even after it's remained, I mean, if you check the water content in 500 years ago, it's not changed, right? Nothing happened. We don't change. We do nothing to change the water content in the atmosphere, right? We do nothing. What we do to change the concentration of atmosphere? We change the concentration of carbon dioxide. That's the factor that we change, right? Understood? We change that one. Right? How? Same thing. Fossil fuel burning mainly, right? There are a lot of things in fossil fuel burning, forest fires, right? Whatever, right? Basically combustion, right? The problem now, Earth carbon dioxide concentration is increases. Due to that, we have a problem which is called enhance greenhouse effect. We call enhance greenhouse effect now, not greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is not a problem. We need that. The problem is enhance greenhouse effect. How greenhouse effect get enhanced? Due to the higher concentration of carbon dioxide. Clear? Due to the higher concentration of carbon dioxide, this greenhouse effect is enhanced, right? That's the problem. Enhance greenhouse effect. We should say it like that actually. That's the proper way. Not the greenhouse effect. Some students think, most of them, even maybe, small kids, they think greenhouse effect is a bad thing. There's no, as I said, there's no something called good and bad, right? But they just think like that. They think, greenhouse effect, we should remove that process, like that in their mind, right? They think, good or bad thing, right? They think it's a bad process. No, without that we can't live, right? It's like Ice Age movie, right? We face that kind of thing, right? The first ice age occurred due to the, after photosynthetic organisms came, right? After photosynthetic organisms came, like cyanobacteria, the whole earth become green color, right? No any heterotrophic organism, the whole earth become a green color, and then what happened? It absorbed all the carbon dioxide in that atmosphere and released oxygen, right? We are in that atmosphere they made, right? They are the one who changed the atmosphere, right? They release tons of oxygen and remove the carbon dioxide from the environment. Then what happened? There was a ice age. They had to face ice age, right? They removed the carbon dioxide and there was ice age, right? Ice age right? After removing carbon dioxide. So anyhow, so we need that process. Definitely Earth temperature goes less than down 0 Celsius, right? අඩු වෙනවමයි අනිවාර්යෙන් අඩු වෙනවා. freeze වෙනවා, right? So enhance greenhouse effect. So you should know the gases and you should know how to explain that, right? You should know how to explain that. I just explain it up to the very base, right? Very deep, right? Very basic. I mention all the basic things, right? How that wave works and all those things, right? Then you should know the gases, right? Methane, water, methane. Here not sulfur dioxide, noxus, huh? In the pair, it doesn't mention sulfur dioxide, it's noxus. We changed the methane concentration also, Lamai, right? How do we release methane into the environment? There are some reasons. Tell me a reason that release methane gas into the earth. What is the reason? How do we release methane gas? Farming, animal farming, right? Cow, right? In their digestive system, they release methane. ඔය දැකලා තියෙනවද මේ සමහරවිට මේ cattle farming හරක් හදද්දී මේ හරගේ නිකන් එන බ්ලෝට් වෙනවා මේ බඩවල් පිම්බිලා හරිද? ඒ මීතේන් ගෑස් වලින්. එතකොට මේ සමහරු කරන්නේ මේ ඒක තමයි විදිහත්. ඒ තැන බලලා මේ පොඩි මේ සිරින්ජ් එකක් වගේ අරගෙන පොඩි මේ නීඩල් එකක් අරගෙන මේවට ටයිප් එකේ නීඩල් එකක් මේ සිරින්ජස් වල එන ටයිප් එකේ නීඩල් එකක් අරගෙන ගහනවා. බඩට මෙහෙම මේව කරලා. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? බාස් ගාලා ගෑස් එක එන්න ගන්නවා. හරිද? මම YouTube එකේ දැකලා තියෙනවා. මේ සමහරුන් ඔතෙන්ට ගින්දර පාරකුත් අල්ලනවා ආතල් එකට. මෙහෙම ගින්දර එනවා. ඇයි මීතේන්? ගිනි ගන්නවා. කියන්නේ ගිනි ගන්නවා කියන්නේ අර ගෑස් එක ඇරියා වගේ තමයි අර යනකම් මෙහෙම ගින්දර පාර. අරුගේ බඩේ. හරි? ඒ මීතේන් එන්නේ. In India it's a huge problem. I mean they have a lot of cows, right? It just release tons of methane. right? ඒක උන්ගේ මාර කේස් එක කියන්නේ. මාර විදියට හරක් ඉන්නවා. නේ එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා. මීතේන් ඒගොල්ලෝගේ ඩයිජෙස්ටිව් ට්‍රැක්ට් එකේ ඉන්න බැක්ටීරියාස් මීතේන් රිලීස් කරනවා. right? මීතනෝජෙනසිස්. ලා ඉන්න ඒක බොඩි එකේ. ඒකට දැන් හුඟක් ඔය මේ බයෝගෑස් means methane නේ right? ඒතර ඒකේ දෙකක් තියෙනවා. their digestive tract release methane. In other hand when the fecal matter digesting again it release methane right? ඒතර ඒගොල්ලන්ට අර මේව යූස් කරන්න දැන් අර බයෝගෑස් මේ සිස්ටම් හදාගත්තාම අරක යූස් කරගන්න පුළුවන් ආපහු. ඒ කියන්නේ එනර්ජි එකක් විදියට යූස් කරායිනේ. carbon dioxide is better than methane. methane යන හැටි carbon dioxide යන එක හොඳයි. ඒක බර්න් කළා මොකද අඩුයි යන amount එක. methane මේ උගල බෝටත් එක්කනේ යන්නේ. මේ right? එහෙම තමයි ඒක. ඒතර those are the gases and මේවා ආයි කියව ගන්න right? and no මේ CFC gases volatile halogens right? I mean hydrocarbons halogenated hydrocarbons so ඒ ටික තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර that's what we change right? එතකොට ඔය ටික තියෙනවා methane gases ගැන වෙනම තියෙනවා right? So then effects of global warming. What are the effects of global warming? මේක මේ gases ගැන වෙනම චුට්ටක් තියෙනවා. ඒක ලොකුවට කියන්නේ මේ කියව ගන්න මහා ලොකුට ඉතින් මට අර explain කියලා දෙන්න තරම් දෙයක් නැහැ. දැන් මේකේ process එක. There's a process in greenhouse effect right? That's the thing you need to learn. මේක අර gas එක ගැන මහා දෙයක් අමුතුවෙන් කතා කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. Human activity is any activity that release carbon dioxide those gases right? එතකොට farming උත් හරි මේ ඒවත් ලියන්න පුළුවන්. මේ farming කියන්නේ animal farming right? Livestock farming that's the name livestock farming right? Livestock farming for livestock farming කියන්නේ cattle farming chicken farming right? and then poultry right? Chicken farming නේ poultry ඒ හිම terms තියෙනවා use කරන poultry cattle farming ඊට පස්සේ ඌරන්ට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ ඒක නම් මතක නැහැ මට. මොකද කොහොම තියෙනවා right? pork farming කියලා කියන්නේ pork කියන්නේ මස් කරාම pork හරි. cow මසට හදද්දී මේ මොකක්ද දැන් මං කිව්වේ cattle farming ඊට පස්සේ මස් කරාම beef chicken එක පොදුවේ birds we call poultry. ඊටසේ මස් කරාම chicken right? හරි. එහෙම තමයි යන්නේ. කියන විදිහවල මේවල use කරන්නේ එහෙම තමයි. Right. So what are the adverse effects? I mean I should ask what is not that adverse effect right? adverse effect එකක් වෙන්නේ නැති දේවලුත් නෑ. ඔක්කොම adverse effect තමයි මේකේ right? First thing start from the glaciers melting right? Glaciers melt right? Due to the higher temperature. And then what happens when glaciers melting? You can continuously say that when glaciers melting that water goes to the sea, ocean right? Then what happen? Sea water level rises. Then what happen? Then small islands covered right? And then terrestrial ground මොකද කියන්නේ මේ beach some beaches getting covered by ocean, right? Then it goes to habitat. I mean, reduce the habitat, right? ඒ වගේ කියන්න පුළුවන්. Then after that, climate changes, right? One of the main reason, climate changes. What is climate changes? Huh? What is called climate changes? Um, we experience climatic changes, right? Is there any patterns now? Is there any rain patterns? rain වල pattern එකක් තියෙනවද now? මේ තියෙනවද? අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න නේද? මේ books වල තියෙනවා නේද? monsoon rain මේ March April නේද? then මොකද්ද? March April and ආයි කොයි කාලෙද? September November නේද? September October කොහොම තියෙනවනේ monsoon rains වල අර time periods දාලා ඉගෙන ගන්නව නේද? මේ එහෙමද වහින්නේ? එහෙමද වහින්නේ? මේ පායනවා මේ දෝයි ගහලා වහිනවා. Is there any patterns? හිටි හැටි සතියක් විතර වහිනවා. හරිද? හිටි හැටි පායනවා. Right? We can't find patterns. Right? They are, I don't say the patterns continuously stop, but those patterns are changing. It's not that we don't get trained according to those patterns. Right? ඒ patterns වලටම හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ අර ඉස්සර ඔය තිබ්බනේ මේ දැන් මොනවද අපි කියන්නේ පැඩි මෙව කරද්දි ඔය තියෙන යල මහ කියලා නේද? යල මැද මහ කියලා ඔය මේ අර කුඹුරු කරන කට්ටිය තියෙනනේ අහලා තියෙන right? මේ දැන් එහෙම තමයි කරන්නේ. ඒ උනට එහෙම කරන්න විදියට වහින්නේ නැහැ. right? They made that pattern according to the rain. Right? Rain pattern. ඒගොල්ලෝ එහෙම යල මහ කියලා දාන්නේ according to rain patterns, right? But we don't get rain like that. එහෙම rain එක එන්නේ නැහැ දැන්. right? That's what you call basically, right? Not only rain is a one thing, right? We get something like ditwa, right? Frequently, right? We get that kind of disasters frequently, right? It was a ඒ හොඳට වෙන එකක්. ඒක මාර විදිහට link ඔය මේ carbon dioxide concentration and මොනවාද ඒවට කියන්නේ ditwa like thing මොනවාද කුණාටුද මේ මොනවාද ඒවා කෙලින්ම linked ආ ඒ කියන්නේ හරිකේන් අනම්මනම් ඒ type එකේ ඒවා right මාර විදිහට increase වෙනවා ඒවා මොකද ඒක එහෙම වෙනවා වෙන්න ඕනේ right කර්මෙට ඒවා එන්නේ ලංකාව වගේ රටවල් වලට right right and මේ තියෙන්නේ hurricanes tornadoes right continue we will get that kind we can see that kind of things frequently right due to climatic changes and we have to face extreme weathers extreme climates that means if you get rain you will get rain until flood right if you get rain you will get flood right if you get drought environment I mean dry environment it goes to drought right it goes to drought ඒ කියන්නේ කෙලින්ම නියගයක් එන්නම dry වෙනවා right වැස්සොත් ගම් වතුර එනවා right extreme environmental conditions right and yeah flash floods right කියන්නේ sudden heavy rainfalls එහෙම එන්න පුළුවන් දැන් මේ මතකද දන්නේ ඩුබායි වලට වැස්සා ඔහොම වැස්සා last year හරි ඊට කලින් හරි මට මතක නැහැ 24 or 25 right මතකද දන්නේ ඩුබායි වලට වැස්සා ඔය වගේ එකක් මේ vehicles වල විතරක් damage එක මට හිච්ච විදියට 3 billion dollars අපේ economy එකවත් එච්චර නැහැ අපේ 3 billions තිබ්බනම් ගොඩ හරි damage for the vehicles only vehicles 3 billion dollars right අපේ economy එක එච්චර ලොකු නෑ අපි මේ අපේ කියන අපිට එච්චර තිබ්බනම් ගොඩ 3 billion හරි මොකද්ද මේ මම දන්න තරමින් අපේ එච්චර ලොකු නෑ හරි මේ මට හරියට මතක නෑ මොකද අපිට ගල්ලා අපේ එනර්ජි වලට යන්නෙත් 1.5 විතර ටොප් ඩීසල් වලින් අපේ එනර්ජි එකට යන්නෙත් 1.5 බිලියන් විතර right so මේ දැන් කොහෙද ඩුබයි කියන්නේ වහින තැනක්ද ඩුබයි කියන්නේ වැස්ස මේ එන තැනක්ද ඈ වහින තැන ගම් වතුර කියන්නේ පොඩි මේ එකක් නෙමෙයි ඈ එන්න ෆ්ලඩ් එකක් ඒකේ වෙහිකල්ස් වල ගන්න දෙයක් නැහැ ඔක්කොම මොනවද රෝල්ස් රොයිස් ෆෙරාරි ලැම්බෝගිනි බුගාටි right ඕවා උන්ගේ ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් කාර් ඉවර ඇති ඔක්කොම ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ හරිද ඉවරයි මේ ඔන්න සර්ච් කරලා බලන්න මේ නිකන් ඔය දැක්කොත් එහෙම මාත් දැක්ක නිකන් පාවීගෙන යන්නේ ඔක්කොම බෙම් මොනවද ෆෙරාරි එහෙම ෆෙරාරි ලැම්බෝගිනි නිකන් යනවා එහෙ ගහගෙන ඇයි මොකද එච්චරට මේක ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණේ කියන්නේ උන්ට first time flood එකක් ආවේ හරි main problem they don't have drainage system why do they keep drainage system they are in the desert ne right why do you make drainage system in the desert right when you make the city in the desert who make drainage system right rain drainage system මොකද හදන්නේ කාණු කපන මේ කාන්තාරෙ මැද්දේ පිස්සු වැස්සා then ඒ වෙලාවෙම කොහෙද ආයේ මේ ඒ ළඟදී මට මතකයි මේ සහරා වලට වැහලා මේ හෙන පොන්ඩ් එකක් වගේ එකක් හැදිලා තිබ්බා. හරි. මේ හෙන ඒරියා එකක් වතුර පිරීලා සහරා වල මාර සීන් එකක්. ඒ ළඟ ඒ දෙකම උනේ කොහොම හරි. එහෙම එනවා right? ඒ වගේ මේ කන්ඩිෂන්ස් එනවා. මේවත් එක්ක. right තොර ඔය ටික තමයි ඕකේ මේ වෙන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ අපිට තියෙන ඕසෝන් ලේයර් ගැන කතා කරන්න ඒක ටිකක් දිගයි අපි ඒක තියමු අදට අපිට ඕසෝන් ලේයර් එකයි ඊට පස්සේ ෆොටෝකෙමිකල් ස්මග් එකයි ඒ දෙක තමයි මෙකැනිසම්ස් තියෙන පාර්ට් එකක් කියලා කතා කරන්න තියෙනවා. ඕසෝන් ලේයර් එකේ තියෙන මෙකැනිසම් එකක් මේ ෆොටෝකෙමිකල් ස්මග් එකේ තියෙන මෙකැනිසම් එකක්. ඔය දෙකේ තමයි ඉක්වේෂන්ස් යන ලොකුවට තියෙන්නේ. මේ ටිකේ අපි කතා කරා ඇසිඩ් රේන්ස් වල ඉතින් ඒක හිතලා ලියුව හැකි. ඇසිඩ් රේන් වල මෙකැනිසම් එක හිතලා ලියුව හැකි. ඒක නිකම්ම ඕලන්නේ නැහැ නේ. නිකම්ම මික්ස් මේ දාලා ලියුව හැකි. අරක තමයි තියෙන්නේ. මේ ඒ දෙක කරාම ඉවරයි ලෙසන් එක. right? මේ සැටර්ඩේ ඉවර ගන්න පුළුවන් මේ. right? මේ සැටර්ඩේ වලින් ඉවරයි. බලන්න බා මේ ඒකේ ඉක්වේෂන්ස් ටික බලාගෙන මම මේ නෝට් එකක් හදන්න. මේ ෂෝට් නෝට් එක මම හදන්න මම අර හදන්න නැතුව ඉන්නේ ඔයා මේක කියවන්න ඕනේ. රිසෝස් බුක් එක. මේ කියන්නේ මම දෙන්න දෙයක්වත් නැහැ. මොකද මේ තියෙන ඔක්කොම ඕනේ. ඔක්කොම ඕනේ කියලා කටපාඩම් කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අර බේසික්ස් ටික මම හයිලයිට් කර දෙනවනේ. ඒ ටිකත් එක්ක බලන්න. ඒතකොට බලද්දි ඔළුවට යයි. මොනවා හරි ඩවුට් එකක් තිබ්බොත් කියන්න. සමහර තැන් මම මීට මේ රිසෝස් බුක් එකේ තියෙනවට වැඩිය එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරපු තැන් තියෙනවා සමහර තැන් වල. right එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරද්දි. right ඒතකොට මොනවා හරි ඩවුට් එකක් තිබ්බොත් බලන්න. මේ ක්වෙස්චන්ස් එක බලන්න. මේ මහ ලොකු සීන් එකක් නැහැ මේ ටිකේ. ඊට පස්සේ මේ සැටර්ඩේ ක්ලාස් එක ගමු. සැටර්ඩේ මෝර්නින් කරමු. මේ මෝර්නින්ම කරමු. ඊට පස්සේ ඒකෙත් මේ වීක් එකෙත් මන්ඩේ කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට මන්ඩේ කරාම ඒතකොට දැන් නෙක්ස්ට් සැටර්ඩේ ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි බලමු. මේ ඉරුන් නැත්තම් ඒ මන්ඩේත් කරමු. එතකොට ඉවරයි. ඊට පස්සේ මේ ඒකට පේපර්ස් ටිකත් හරි ඔක්කොමත් හරි මේ පේපර් ක්ලාස් තියරි ක්ලාස් එකේ තියාගන්න මොන හරි ආයෙ පොඩ්ඩක් රිවයිස් කරන්න. රයිට් මොන හරි ලෙසන්ස් ටිකක් ආයෙ ඕන තැන් අනම්මන පොඩ්ඩක් මට මතක් කරලා දෙන්න මේ තැන් බලා ගන්න ඕන තැන්. හරි මතකද කියලා නිකන්. ඒ ටික අපි ඒකට පොඩි ඩිස්කෂන් එකක් විදිහට නිකන් මම නිකන් ප්‍රශ්න අහන ගමන් සමහර තැන් වල පොඩ්ඩක් බලන්න ඔයාලට මතකද කියලා. ඒතකොට අර මතක වුණා නම් මතකේ කොහොමද තියෙන්නේ කියලා නිකන් සමහර ඉම්පෝර්ටන්ට් තැන් තියෙන අපි නිකන් අර කොච්චර දැනන් හිටියත් අමතක වෙන මිස් කරන තැන්. ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් අපි ඩිස්කස් කරමු මේ ක්වෙස්චන්ස් අහන ගමන් කොහොමද කියලා මම හද්දි ඒක කල්පනා කරලා මේ අපි ඩිස්කෂන් එකක් විදියට කරමු. රයිට් මේ ඒතකොට ඒ ටිකත් කව වෙලා ඒ ටික කරගත්තා. හරි රයිට්. ඒකට අදට නවත්තමු. මේ මම මේ ඕසෝන් එක කරනවා. තව වෙලා තිබ්බනම් මදි ටයිම් එක ටිකක් දිගට ලියලා හිමීට කරමු අපි. මේ හිමිහනිලි ගන්න එක ස්ට්‍රක්චර් එකයි ඕසෝන් ලේ එකේ යන පැටර්න්ස් ටිකයි. මේ රයිට්. එහෙනම් අදට නවත්තමු. සැටර්ඩේ නෝමල් ටයිම් එකේ ක්ලාස් එක තියෙනවා. මම මැසේජ් එකක් දාන්න. රයිට්. එහෙනම් goodbye. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Bye.
Bye.